Hi everyone. Thanks for attending our talk. Just some things. There are some headphones in front of you. If you can't hear me because of the noise outside, feel free to plug the headphones in, and then hopefully you should have a clear communications channel for us. Before we get started, I just want to say, it's great to be up here with you two. We worked on the Kernel project for 9 months together, globally distributed team. So it's nice to kind of be here, talk about the success of the project and kind of put a bow on it and share it with everyone, but sit with you guys too.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah, same.
Your speakers aren't working.
Hello, is it working?
Can you hear me?
Oh, now
yes,
we
you can.
There we go. And this is
better?
why we do
Yeah.
this warm up. Cool. So to kick it off, introductions. My name's Danielle. I am a project manager at NearForm Commerce. I am responsible for working with our clients to determine their product strategy and determine how we can execute their big dreams and make them come into a reality. We have Rob to my left. He was the lead engineer on the Kernel project, focusing on React Native and mobile applications. And then to the left of him, we have Michael. He is our head of engineering and responsible for overall customer success, architecture strategy, and delivery. So, our booth is just behind us at L60. I'm hoping we will have a chance for questions and answers, but if we don't, give us a follow over there and we'll be happy to answer any of the questions that you may have. Alrighty then, well, I'm going to get myself comfortable and kick us off. So, Michael, could you maybe give our audience an overview of what Kernel is and a bit of insight into their company vision, please?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Can everybody hear me all right? All right. It's hard to hear in here. So I think the best way to paint the picture of what Kernel is to share with you how it was described to us by its founder when we first started the project. So Steve Ells is the founder of Kernel. He also founded Chipotle, which I don't know if you have Chipotle here. You do? Cool. All right. Well, it's very popular in the States. If you haven't been there, it's really good. So when we first got started, Steve kind of proposed this question. Imagine for a second that you own a restaurant, and your goal is to automate the restaurant 100%. How would you do that? What are the pieces that you'd have to solve? If you think about any restaurant you've been in, or maybe you've worked in the industry, or you've been to a McDonald's, or you've been to an open kitchen restaurant, if you look at just how the food moves around the kitchen, or how people in the kitchen move, or how customers interact with the kitchen and the food coming in and out, it's very complex. It would be very, very difficult to take a restaurant that you know, that you're picturing in your head right now, and automate it completely. Because restaurants are kind of designed around humans. So in order to automate a restaurant completely, you really have to start from the ground up. And you have to think about how should the food move from robot to robot, where robots can't operate yet, or maybe humans would do a better job. You could put a person there to fulfill that role. And Steve's goal, vision with Kernel is really to eliminate the unnecessary tasks of a restaurant and to automate where he can, and then also benefit the employees where he can. So this movement it reduces a ton of cost for the industry, and that allows him to pay his employees better, to give them better benefits, and the work is actually better for them. And so that's really the vision for Kernel.
Awesome, thank you. And so why did Kernel come to NearForm, and how did they hear about us?
I'll take that one too. Honestly, Kernel came to NearForm because they had a very tight deadline, and they needed to build a mobile app from scratch that allowed customers to order food from their app, have that go through the robotics of the restaurant, and then be able to be picked up through a cubby system using their phone. They also had a website that was about 50% complete.
Yeah, it was kind of halfway there.
And that needed some content management systems to back it, and preview deployments, kind of the infrastructure around hosting a website. And all of that is what we built for them.
Perfect. And Rob, I'm gonna ask you this question now. Actually,
Yeah,
what key strategies did NearForm implement to accelerate the development for Kernel? I think it's worthwhile pointing out this initial mobile app project was 13 weeks, so it had to be fast.
Yeah, exactly. So 13 weeks, we were going from no app at all, a half-finished website, to getting this in production for users to place orders from a real restaurant. So I guess the key strategies fell into two main areas. The first area was being kind of relentless in keeping everything focused on that MVP, only the essential features that we needed to be able to release the app and get the users placing their orders. Not letting any kind of feature creep come in and delay the release of the app. And the second main area was on the technology selection. So for example, for the mobile app, we focused on React Native, so that our really small team, I think there were 4 engineers in total working on the app for that 13 weeks, we could build a single code base and we could release it to iOS and Android users really efficiently, really quickly. So yeah.
Awesome. And talking about our technology partners that we used, Vercel was one of them, right? How did that increase our speed and performance?
Yeah, exactly. So for our website and for like a thin API layer behind our website, we were hosting that on Vercel. So that we could use Vercel's really developer-friendly platform to be able to quickly get those changes, those code changes that the engineers were making, get it shipped either to production end users later on once we'd released everything, or earlier on we could get it really quickly released to testers, get the kernel stakeholders to be able to actually try out the features we were building, within minutes of pushing the code changes, which allowed a really fast iteration of testing and development.
Fab. As we've touched on, speed was a fundamental for this bit of the project. So one of the key focus areas for us was around reusability between the website and the mobile app. Can you give us any more insights into that and how someone might be able to do that?
Yeah, sure. So the mobile app was built using React Native. The web side of the project, that wasn't React Native. That was made using React and Next.js. So we couldn't directly share like the code between the app and the web. But there were lots of parts we could share. For example, the thin API layer we had behind the website, the app could just leverage that for things like user registration. So we didn't have to build that twice. We could share some of that functionality. And behind the scenes, we were using Sanity as a CMS for all of the product content, the marketing content, and the flexibility of Sanity allowed us to design that kind of data structure, that schema, in a way where when the data could be shared between the app and the web, we just built it once, and the app and the web could both access it. But even for things that were different between the app and the web, we could customize that data structure in Sanity so that the kernel stakeholders easily knew where to go and make changes. They could edit everything in one place. So that actual management side of the whole system, that was also shared really nicely between the app and the web.
Awesome, thank you. So if we think about this, right, it was 13 weeks, which is essentially 6 sprints to go from nothing to a consumer experience that you would actually take to market. So we had to adopt Agile into this project, and we had to really be focused around goals and outcomes, and now next later roadmaps, which we work with the client to kind of do that, as well as the team, right? You guys were contributing to what might that look like. Fundamentally, part of that is around the technology choices and the flexibility of the architecture and setting yourself up to scale. Michael, can you give us any insight into how we ensured that technology was set for the future and gave us that flexibility?
Yeah, so this is something that I think our agency does really well. We've done it for a few clients now, and we're I think I'd like to say we're really, I don't know if we're pioneering the approach is the right word, but it's something that we definitely have learned a lot about at scale. So a previous client, we actually spoke about this last year here, was working with Puma to build this kind of composable architecture. And we took that same approach with Kernel, where kind of reusing a lot of the back-end routes, having a single layer of truth where you can access data no matter what the client is. So in this case, we had a web app and a mobile app. But as companies scale, what they tend to do, we've seen, is they duplicate their work. They'll say, we want to sell our products on Instagram or it's an AI chatbot, integrate that data, or WhatsApp, or whatever the next thing is, and they're kind of chasing that market. In order to get their products to that market, they end up rebuilding something new specifically for that. That's not an approach we take. We take a single layer of truth, usually through an API like GraphQL or a REST-based using Vercel in this case. And we call this composable architecture. There's a lot of people here from the Mock Alliance. You'll see those at some of the vendor booths, and we're a part of that alliance as well. And that's an approach that we have found works really well for these businesses because it allows them to kind of plug and play these services and different products to kind of meet their customers where they're at.
And in real life, that just means like fast delivery, right? So have you got an example in this project where there was a change or that was particularly challenging and we were able to kind of like solve it quickly?
I can think of one where in the beginning when we were in New York working with Steve Ells and his team to build this app, it was really cool to see this founder who is very passionate, has a very high bar, standing in his restaurant, watching the first customers come in and try and learn this new system. He'd kind of watch awkwardly in the corner as people pulled out their phones and figured out what button to press to unlock the cubbies, or watched when there was friction between the customer and whatever their task was doing, and you'd see him walk up and say, what were you expecting there? Or, what's giving you trouble right now? Or what would you like to see? And immediately he'd start scribbling notes like, okay, we need to change this or do that, add this feature. And inevitably Dani would get those notes and those would go into our sprints. And at one point, I think you said this earlier, Dani, like we were getting changes and fixes to the app by the next day, deployed, ready for users, and ready for Steve to see users use in the store. So we were just rapidly iterating on this product.
Yeah, we did like a friends and family launch to tease out these problems, and it was like the next day there was a fresh batch of people coming in, or the people from the day before because they were getting free sandwiches. So they wanted to see it, and it didn't require working 24 hours a day. It was a case of just implementing them and pressing the button. It was great.
Yeah.
They were shocked at the fast. Cool, love it. Okay then, and then so if we dive into the performance a little bit more, Rob, maybe you can take this one. But how did we balance speed of delivery with providing a seamless user experience, particularly thinking about maybe like the payment and checkout flows as well?
Yeah, sure. So when you're thinking about like a checkout process, a payment process, obviously the speed that the users can get through that is really important. You want users to, decide what food they want to eat, and then get to placing that order as quick as they can. A decision that was made quite early for the mobile app was that the first time a user was going to place an order and check out, that we were actually going to force them to register or to log in. There wasn't going to be any guest checkout process for the app. But this meant that for every subsequent order, and of course Kernel wanted users to come back, every other day to buy their lunch. So every time they're placing their subsequent order, the checkout process was just like 2 clicks. You add your products, you view your cart, you hit to place the order, you hit to confirm, done. But of course you have to kind of balance that speed for the user checking out with their user experience. As Michael mentioned, it's kind of a new process that users are having to pick up food from a cubby that will be ready at some future time. So as well as making the checkout really fast and efficient, we also have to make sure to get across to the user, what time they need to be at the restaurant to get their food while it's, at its freshest, which cubby they need to pick up from, where the restaurant is. That's also really important to get across. So there's definitely a balance there between the usability and the speed, that's for sure.
Love it. And presumably you could probably get some performance and optimization issues when you've got such short timelines. Did we identify anything, and how were we able to solve it?
Yeah, of course. Like any mobile or web project, there's the kind of standard optimizations you can make. Using CDNs to get the images closer to the user, using all the caching strategies. That's kind of your standard thing you hope any project would have. But for this project, we spotted some issues with kind of latency with interacting with the shopping cart. So an example here was you would choose a quantity of, I don't know, a drink, you'd hit the add to cart button, and it took sometimes a second or two for the e-commerce service we were using to kind of acknowledge that had worked, that was successful, the product was in the cart, and that was kind of jarring to the user, that they were having to actually wait every time they were interacting with their cart for that time. We wanted the user to hit the button and then move on to choose which burger they wanted or choose their dessert. So quite early on we spotted that was an issue and put in some extra work to add some optimistic update functionality. So this was a really good usability experience improvement. So as soon as the user was hitting the add to cart button, from their perspective, it was instantly in the cart, and they could just move on with the next step of their process, adding more products, starting the checkout. And kind of behind the scenes, the app and the website was making sure that everything had been successful, and that by the time they were, processing the checkout, everything was in the cart, ready to go. And it was a really seamless experience, and it made the whole process feel really slick.
Yeah, it did look good, to be fair. At first it was slightly concerning. I was like, is the burger in the cart or not? We had to have the conversations with the clients to be like, this isn't shippable right now, let's solve it. And they agreed, and we just aligned priorities there. Another key topic for everyone is accessibility. NearForm carry that into every project that we have and try and make it as important as possible when we're talking to our clients as well. Can you share some stuff that we do around accessibility for Kernel? And
yeah, sure. So obviously it's really important for any business to make sure that all of their customers can interact with their product or service seamlessly. Kernel don't want to be discriminating against who can buy their food, especially as you have to place the order on the app or the website. You physically can't go into the store and ask for an order. There's no point of sale in the store. So at NearForm we actually maintain some open source libraries specifically for improving accessibility for mobile applications. So of course we leverage that as part of our standard ongoing development process. Testing the products with a screen reader is kind of eye-opening when you actually try to hide the screen and interact just by touching the screen, gestures and by sound. It's amazing what issues it come up against. So of course we tested against that. Anywhere where we found that it was kind of difficult to get some key information or to place an order, then that was a priority for us to get fixed.
Brilliant. And last but not least, I think the killer question is, what are some of our key insights or takeaways for success with this project that we want to share with everyone?
This is kind of my job, so I'll take this question.
Take it.
I think that looking back on this project and thinking about what made it successful, it actually started from day one, and it revolves around two pieces. The first is, and I'm almost afraid to say this, but it's true. As an agency, you really have to be comfortable telling the client no in some cases. You have to force the client to make a decision on priorities and what is going to be most valuable, and sticking to that MVP that we've all heard about. It's so easy for scope creep to come in and new features to make a project miss its deadline, go over budget, all of those things. And it's critical that you work with the client and have a relationship where you say, we want to get this done. You want us to get this done. What is the most valuable thing that we can do to get you where you need to be? And for Kernel, that was having a customer able to order and pick up their food. And once that's done, then you can add all the cool features like Google and Apple Pay and all those other things that we ended up doing after the 13 weeks that we first started. And then the second thing is communication. And I remember the first kickoff meeting we had with Kernel, all three of us were on that call, and we talked about how it was imperative that this project went perfectly. If anything, any roadblocks popped up, we were going to miss this deadline. And in order to get around that, we needed to communicate early and often. So no judgment. It didn't matter what the issue was or if we were worried that we were going to miss the deadline or what broke. You posted it in a channel and we immediately attacked the issue. And we had an amazing relationship with the client and an amazing relationship with the team. It was so much fun to work with these guys for the whole project. So I think those are the things that really made it a success.
I agree. Okay, well, it looks like we do have a little bit of time left. Just a reminder, L60, just behind that stand, if you do have any questions for us. But I'll throw it to the floor. Like, feel free to put your hand up if you have a question. I can come around with the mic, and then one of us three can answer. No questions. Have we answered it all? That's good. Okay. Well, nothing. I should have put a seed in the audience, shouldn't I?
All right, well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.